好，同志们，我们都在轰轰烈烈的站起来，站起来。Welcome to the 280th edition of China Now with your gang of two. Nan Su, who is the senior investigative reporter for Epoch Times, and yours truly, Michael Olson, who was dissuaded from being a China hand by the great helmsman himself, Mao Zedong. Each week, Nansu and I look out across the broad expanse of the Pacific Ocean and we ask, China now, friend or foe, war or peace? Ni hao, Nansu.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending where you are.
And you could be anywhere in the world these days. Well, last evening, President Trump stood before the cameras and told the country that our military was winning a great victory in Iran and that it would continue to win that great victory for the next several weeks. But he's been saying that for whenever he's had the opportunity, and he does get a lot of opportunities to talk, and that's what he's been talking about. What Trump did say last night was that the United States does not need the oil that comes out of the Persian Gulf, and that it is incumbent upon the nations that do depend on that oil to find their own way of keeping the Gulf open to shipping. In other words, President Trump seemed to be firing a shot across the bow of America's longtime allies in Europe. Nansu, did you hear what I heard?
Yes, well, they fired the shot first.
They did. In what respect? How did they fire that shot?
Well, they didn't allow the U.S. military to even see. Keep in mind, we didn't ask them to participate in the fight. We just say, hey, we need to use that. It's inconvenience for U.S. military to make all these military operations in the Middle East without the support without being able to use those military base in the Europe. So now they're not even allowed us to use those. Why do we have to support them? Hey, we can support them in a different way. Just like President say, hey, you want oil? Come to buy American oil. We have a lot of oil here.
Well, they did seem to do a pretty good job of angrifying the President of the United States, and we'll see how that works. How do you think China sees this rift between the United States and its traditional allies?
Well, we don't give a damn to the weak hands. I mean, I think that this is a see, China has been using Europe trying to as a bargaining chip to balance the United States leadership. That's what China has been doing for many years by now.
So maybe they've been successful.
Oh yeah, so that's what president trying to do to break the tie. I mean, you guys have to make the choice. Now, keep in mind that in November of last year, that President Trump published the national security strategy, uh, the so-called down road doctrine, right? Remember?
Monroe Doctrine,
Yeah,
punning on the
remember?
Monroe Doctrine, which is to
Yeah.
say, by golly, we're looking at home first.
Yeah. And Dunrobe doctrine is a little different than the Monroe doctrine. It's basically to secure the backyard, and then so we are going to be ready to fight in the Western Pacific, the front. So now the Dunrobe doctrine, mentioned the name of Taiwan 6 times. So that's the focus. And then as a contrast, it mentioned the name of Germany twice. And the only reason the Germany's name was mentioned twice because Germany, it's still by this day building up, really trying to build up several world's largest chemical industry plants in China using the oil import from Russia. So that's what their behavior until today. So they need to make the choice if they want to be, China is the number one adversary of United States now. I wouldn't even use the word adversary. I use the word the enemy,
Enemy.
the worst enemy in history to humanity and peace. So now think about this. This is our worst enemy, and it's not only threatening the security of United States, but it's threatening the security of the entire world. But at the same time, all these European countries, look at how busy they are doing business with China. So it just doesn't make sense. So therefore, they need to make the decision. They cannot just become the bargaining chips in the hands of the CCP to deal with the United States, to take advantage from the United States. I think this is very important. This is the point. And if you don't want to be our ally, fine. We'll still take care of the world. We will still going to defend the peace. We're still going to get rid of all this nuclear power, possibly, in the hands of Iranian regime. But we're not going to do your favor. I mean, you want oil? President say, "Come get it." Come get it.
You have to be on our side. And you know what? It seems like the Donroe doctrine has been implemented in light speed recently.
Yes.
I mean, it hasn't taken, he's only been in office a year and couple months, and already he has pretty much taken over South America and Central America taken control back from the CCP in Panama, in Venezuela, Cuba. There's not much left there
Oh, there's a
except for
lot left.
Brazil.
The Brazil, the
Brazil,
only,
yeah,
the Brazil is the main one, right?
yep,
For the entire doctrine, Brazil is centered. And, if we can't have a Brazil back on our side, that's a failure.
yep. So he is implementing this at light speed, and it would seem to be what he's doing in Iran is also part of everything. It's part of this contention with China, and I think Trump seems to be using Iran as a way of forcing NATO back together again, or to hell with you.
Well, I think that they NATO need to take the European countries need to take care of themselves. Okay, so you have the entire 30 countries as an ally of United States in the NATO, in the Europe. So 30 countries, their total population, total GDP, total size of economy roughly equal to the United States, but they cannot, save Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine's not our responsibility because Ukraine is not part of NATO. So European countries you need to, we have been helping them, give a tremendous amount of money to them, but Europe cannot even take care of that. And then now that it comes to the Middle East, Iranian regime is the threat to the entire world, entire Western civilization. Now we try to take care of that, and we didn't even ask them to participate. The president didn't even tell them because I think that he got a zero hope from NATO countries. Now that so you have now we have United States and Israel, try to take care of the Middle East, one of the biggest threat in our era. And the NATO doesn't even let the U.S. military to use the military base. That's just entirely nonsense. If you don't, collaborate with us. So why do we need to take care of your business? You need oil, you come get it.
Well, that's the fun thing is that NATO appears to be without means to take care of it. The United Kingdom, UK, just called together a big Zoom of 40 countries to talk about ways of opening the Strait of Hormuz and keeping it open. And the United States is not attending this Zoom conference. To heck with you. We figured out how to do this. You're not cooperating with us. So you have these 40 countries that are going to be sitting around a Zoom conference and trying to figure out a way of keeping open the Straits of Hormuz. But in
You know
fact,
what? You know what? I think, this coming weekend or maybe next week, the United States may take a military action uh, uh, on Kark Island and even on the Strait of Hormuz. But but I think President is waiting for a response from NATO saying, if U.S. military open up the Strait of Hormuz, then they are going to send their force in to keep it, at least to keep it. Don't let the Strait of Hormuz become a burden of United States military. So we can take it. I think that we have 60,000 military personnel over there in the Middle East. We're ready to take both Kark Island and the Strait, and but we need someone as a joint security force if we're going to keep that open. I
that's
think that's what's going on here.
yeah.
And because now keep in mind, Trump said that we have not finished things here, and next 2 to 3 weeks we're going to finish the rest of the work. And he did not say what the rest of the work is. So I suspect, we are still trying to help NATO, but they at this point, president just waiting for them to make a very first step. Just come to United States and say, hey, if U.S. military open the strait, then we're going to send our military there to keep it. I mean, if you need a strait and then you need oil, and you now we open it up for you, but can you keep it? If you cannot, if they don't even want to do that, then we're coming home. Hey, come here. We have a lot of oil for you.
Well, and that's the irony of this Zoom conference. You have 40 representatives from 40 countries on the screen, on the Zoom screen, talking about how they really don't have the means to do anything unless the United States takes the initiative to perhaps take Karg Island. I think in looking at how well Iran has positioned itself in terms of managing the Persian Gulf, geographically, it's ideally positioned to do just that. Plus, it has the oil. Doesn't have much else. It has the geographic position, it has the oil. Now, I'm thinking Trump thinks that, well, the way to get control of Iran is to take its oil. And the way to do that is to take Karg Island, which is the pipe, the end of the pipe. So you shut down the flow of oil out of Iran, you reduce its money, you starve out the people, starve out the Republican Guard. And to do that, you're going to have to hold Karg Island, like you say. And to do that, you need those people, those countries that depend on that oil to pony up. Now, you see these 40 countries on this Zoom call trying to find some diplomatic way of opening up the Hormuz Strait by talking. Now, I don't see uh, Iran as having a need to talk with.
Yeah, well, that's why it's nonsense, right? Well, they are still in the globalization, economy, they're still their mentality is still in that kind of in the 90s. So they don't take action. They just talk.
They just
They're talking about, this is nonsense. You have this DEI, diversity, inclusivity,
equity and inclusion.
equity, then and they gave China that. I mean, this is the worst thing that could happen. In the globalized economy era, you make China a part of that DEI. I mean, that's how we are losing the entire game in the past 5 years, a quarter century. That just totally nonsense. And they are still in that mentality, you can't count on them for anything.
And yet they are counting on us for their oil and
Yeah,
not,
come buy it. We have a lot, the US oil is just a little more expensive.
but is it more expensive than having somebody control your economy with their oil and with their control of the Persian Gulf by virtue of the Straits of Hormuz? I'm thinking that they have to shut the flow of oil out of Iran and starve them out. It's the only way to do it. And the Karg Island is the simplest means of doing it. And I know Trump has been looking at that possibility for a long, long, long time. And how he gets the Europeans to play ball, that's going to be a very interesting thing. So that'll be something that we have to watch here in the next 3 weeks because Trump is fighting a hot war in Iran and a war of wills with NATO and European countries. Two wars at the same time, one with friends and one with enemies. Wow. So there's a lot to watch there.
Well, it's always the case, right? You have all these people, they have a different idea. They want to the different ideas of dealing with China, dealing with Iran, and of course, it's there are still people want to do DEI with China, and thinking China is a part of the DEI. That's just totally nonsense.
Yeah. It's a total. China is a prison owned and operated by the Chinese Communist Party. There is no China there. The China left or was kicked out of the country. And the Chinese people in China are really prisoners of the Chinese Communist Party. And there's certainly no DEI in that prison. So, the Straits of Hormuz is where the whole all where it is all focused as we speak. And recently, the Republican Guard turned away two of China's ships. And how did you read that, Nansu?
Well, China and Pakistan, have made a joint proposal of the Middle East peace. It didn't work, right? China want oil,
Yes.
and yeah, they unfortunately I think Iran seeing that China didn't really help them as a so-called China as a strategic partner, and China didn't really do much to help Iran in the last whole months of a war and the U.S. major military operation in the Middle East. China didn't help, so Iran basically uh, kind of a more or less flick their middle finger to Beijing, just say, hey, you guys didn't do what you're supposed to do. Um, but I think the CCP is doing a lot behind the scene trying to pressure all these like Houthis and Hezbollah to join the war. I think China it's been doing that using its influence because because if all these
These are
Iranian regime and
you're talking about the traditional satellite war armies of Iran. These are
that's
the
right. I think
Houthis.
China trying to influence them to have these people, this terrorist group, to join the war against the United States and Israel. So I think that if this I think this Middle East war, if not anything else, at least it make all the GCC countries, the Gulf countries, uh, the Gulf Muslim countries like Kuwait, Saudi, Bahrain, UAE, all these countries really see what China is, and also, of course, make our ally Israel see clearly what China is. Israel has not been doing a very good job in the globalized economy era. It's been giving China a lot of technologies, including defense technology. China got its most advanced missile technology from Israel. Got its China also got its fourth generation fighter jet technology from Israel. China got a lot of things, and military technology from Israel. So now I think Israel finally realized,
Wakes up to
yeah,
see.
wakes up. Yeah, but at least they wake up and see who its a real enemy is. But European countries, they're not even to the point yet.
Let me ask you this, Nansu. Who do you think Europe is most frightened of? China or the United States?
I think that Israel, I think it's afraid of Iranian regime. I mean, but all these countries, they actually more or less like in the olden days, the six-party talk, trying to count on China's to help. The six-party talk, United States, trying to counting on the help from Beijing to stop North Korea from getting the nuclear weapons, and it failed brutally, right? So now Israel has been trying to counting on the help from Beijing to keep Iran in the place where it's supposed to be, not becoming a threat to Israel, but it failed. So
Miserably.
miserably, you can't count on China anything. I mean,
Well, you can count on China to be China-centric. China's only concern is the Chinese Communist Party,
That's
period.
correct. That's it.
And
So I
and
think that this war so far, really let people seeing what Beijing's leaders are. So I think that's very good.
okay. Well, we're going to be looking at a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to pick up some of the stories of the day. And one of them is the fact that Iran has turned back two ships of China's COSCO shipping company in the Persian Gulf, said, you cannot pass, which is a way of demonstrating its control over the world right now. Nothing is moving until Iran says it can move. Now, Trump, President Donald Trump, is the only force doing that I exerting his force to do something about it that I can see, along with Israel. Uh, China is feeding Iran with military gear and whatnot and support. and as is Russia. So it's really the United States now against the Iran, China, Russia axis. And it's a major fight that we're in. So when we come back, we're going to pick up some of the stories from that fight. This is China Now. Michael Olson with Nan Su and you. Please do stay tuned. We will be right back after these messages.
Your business needs more space? Space is reasonable, secured, and accessible 24/7 for qualified businesses at Anbar Self Storage in U-Haul. Easy off Highway 1 on Airport Boulevard. Anbar Self Storage in U-Haul in Freedom.
The kid is moving her family to Sacramento. Anbar Self Storage and U-Haul has the moving vans, car trailers, and shipping boxes she needs ready to go. Easy off Highway 1 on Airport Boulevard. Anbar Self Storage and U-Haul in Freedom.
Attention investors. This is a simple commercial on the investment value of gold. Gold continues to make new highs. In good markets and in bad markets, you need to have your portfolio balanced with gold. Learn about owning physical gold or getting a gold-backed IRA. Make this simple call right now.
800-414-1657. 800-414-1657. That's 800-414-1657.
Sponsored by Reagan Gold.
There's more than one way to enjoy the benefits of cannabis. Hi, I'm Johnny from the Hook Outlet in Capitola, Santa Cruz, and Watsonville. With topicals. The Hook Outlet has many topical preparations that provide localized relief for pain and inflammation of muscles and joints without psychoactive effects. The Hook Outlet has a friendly staff to help you select the right topical for your needs. Pain relief, anyone? Stop by and say hi at the Hook Outlet in Capitola, Santa Cruz, and Watsonville. Find us fast online at hookoutlet.com.
The weather will change. Knox Roofing here. We all remember the story of the three little pigs. We all know the third pig hired Knox Roofing to do his roof. Every day he crawls into his home knowing no wind, no earthquake, fire, or even the big bad wolf can hurt his house. The weather will change for the good and sometimes not so good. Have a Knox roof installed on your home, and one thing you can be certain of, good security. I promise you that. The number to call is 461-0634. Thanks, folks.
China Now, friend or foe, war or peace. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Chairman Xi Jinping of the Chinese Communist Party, General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, has given instructions to his military to be ready to invade Taiwan by 2027. Oh my goodness, that's only a few months away. Are they ready?
Well,
Is
of
the
course they're
military
not
ready
ready.
to invade?
Yeah, well, China, well, that's why it's the wonderful time window for us to take care of the business in Middle East, to get rid of the threat from Iranian regime for its nuclear position. China is really busy dealing with its own economic issues. Its economy has been like a free fall ever since 2023. So, in Russia, it's basically kind of like trapped in Ukraine. So therefore, both China and Russia are not able to do anything to help Iranian regime right now. So it's perfect timing. If someone need to be there to make that decision and make that call. And plus, United States and the entire Western world, it's in the position never happened before. It's Iranian regime. It's very, very, very close to the point of possessing the nuclear weapon, and they already showed the world what they can do. They can shoot up the shoot a target like 4,000 kilometers away. That's 2,500 miles away. Including most of the European nation capitals, including London. It's all within the distance. So they are very close to basically they're very close to the point of having nuclear weapon, and they already have the capability of making long distance attack to most of the European countries. Now, what are we waiting for? I mean, all these European countries, uh, I don't know what they're thinking. They're just, I mean, are they
Well,
going to be?
it could it be they're thinking that they have to triangulate between America and Iran and China? Do you think that, well, we have to play both sides of this? We have to be friends with both sides because we don't know which side's going to win. If we go all in with the United States and the United States loses, then what are we going to be? We're going to be an enemy of the winner. So maybe that's what they're doing. It appears to be that's what they're doing when the Starmer uh, convened this 40 nation summit to find a way to open the Straits of Hormuz. The only thing that they're really coming up with is diplomacy. Maybe if we just ask and plead with the mullahs of Iran, they will open the strait and be nice to the rest of the world. But I don't see that happening. I see Iran as being in the catbird seat right now, and the only way they're going to be to stop them is to starve them out, take away their oil.
Yeah, well, see, I don't think we want to actually take the Strait of Hormuz if European doesn't want to step forward to say they're going to secure it, right? So if we put our U.S. military men and women to the Hormuz Strait, then and we have to stay there forever. That just doesn't make sense because
Because
we
it's
don't need
not,
the oil.
we
We
don't
don't
need
need
the
those
oil.
oil. Why do we have to be there?
Yeah. So this is really a gambit by Trump to force European participation.
Yeah, just basically says, well, we can take it. We can take it for you, but you have to own it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to even own it, then we're not going to even start. So some sort of European, they don't have a strong navy.
What did he say about the UK? UK doesn't even have a navy anymore.
That's right. So you don't need one, right? So I think there's a perfect opportunity there for the European countries because the Gulf nation, Muslim countries, they want to sell their oil, and European countries want to buy oil. So it's potential very strong airline could be formed. All the European countries, they just need to come forward, say, hey, let's make an airline, you know, uh, the European countries will send their force to the strait and then relying on the airline, all these Gulf nations, the Muslim countries, they're going to give them the logistic. So they can, there are some sort of airlines forming over there. That's going to be the long-term stability for the Middle East. I think the president is just waiting for that promise come to his table.
And that's why his announcement last night on television was kind of devoid. It was almost like he wanted to say that a great agreement has been made to end the conflict in Iran, but the agreement has not yet been made, so he couldn't announce it. And so he said essentially that we're going to be there for another few weeks, bombing the bleep out of Iran, looking for an agreement. But there's really two agreements he's talking about. There's an agreement with Iran that he's looking for, but there's also an agreement with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, European countries. He's looking for that agreement as well. So he's trying to force two agreements right now.
Well, I think that two agreements just cannot happen one without other. So,
Yes.
uh, because if the European countries doesn't come forward, then we're not going to make the military action. It doesn't make sense if we, you know, we take the Strait of Hormuz, right? And then we take if now without the Strait of Hormuz, it doesn't make sense for us to take the Kark Island because you take the Kark Island, and then without this, and then the logistic lines of Strait of Hormuz, then our troops will be in a very difficult environment over there. So I think that Trump really need the NATO step forward to say, if you take the Strait of Hormuz, then NATO countries, maybe United States as a part of it, and maybe not a lot, but mainly from the NATO country, European countries, they're going to be there to secure the opening of Hormuz, and then United States will, uh, play a major role taking the Kark Island. So we take Kark Island, European countries secure the opening of Hormuz. We are closely, watch each other and then support each other's back, while all the GC countries, all these Muslim countries in the Middle East, they will be part of the operation. They will support us from, so that basically forming a
Yep.
new Middle East. Uh, I think Trump has got it all laid out to them. They're just waiting for them to respond. If you not respond, hey, we're just a bomb. We're not going to take a Kark Island, and we're not going to open the strait. We're just going to bomb the Iran back to the Stone Age, and we're gonna just leave.
And then Iran will come back in a few years and we'll all be in the same fix again.
Well,
So
see,
it's
Iranian
do or
regime
die
doesn't
now.
have the capability to shoot a missile to the United States, but it has the capability of shoot a missile to the European countries.
I don't think missiles are the big issue with respect to nuclear weapons. I think they're going to miniaturize the nuclear weapons and hand them to the Houthis and Hezbollah and everybody else and say, here, take this and shoot it off in London and take this and shoot it off in New York City. I think that's going to be uh,
Well, I don't think they can
Iran's
shoot
play.
it to the New York City. That's just too far away. They don't
I
have
just,
the intercontinental.
they put it on a ship and ship it over.
Yeah,
Get
yeah.
a,
Well,
get a,
they will do that regardless, right? They will do that regardless once they have the nuclear
once
weapon.
they have the nuclear weapon, the
Yeah. So
delivery's
basic
no problem.
Right. So basically, if they don't want to secure the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, I think that the only thing left for the U.S. military to do is to get all the enriched uraniums. That's the one thing that we have to get it done. And then we'll just leave. We don't care, if you guys don't want to do anything, then that's your choice. And
Well, one thing,
just come to buy American oil then.
yeah. So that it really is a gambit. We really are trying to force both sides in this one. Um, I think the only way to settle Iran is to settle the Muslims, the mullahs of Shia that have radicalized Islam to the point that it is a holy war, and they are intent on becoming the winners of this holy war. And I don't think they're the least bit reluctant to die for that religious objective. The only way you can stop that is to either secularize Shia Islam or get rid of it. And the only way to get rid of it is to take their money away, and that's to plug the oil pipeline coming out of Iran. Karg Island is the obvious place to start, but Karg Island is surrounded by the Straits of Hormuz, and to keep Karg Island, you're going to have to figure out how to secure the lands surrounding the Straits of Hormuz. So you've got a significant job to do there. One thing Trump said is that we now have sealed up the tunnels in which Iran's military lives now. And we can watch them from space and know exactly when they try to reactivate those tunnels and take care of that issue right away. So that's an interesting possibility. And that in working with perhaps NATO's forces, we could supply them with that information. It's possible, but it's going to be a struggle. And I don't know if in watching the Zoom conference put on by the UK, in which 40 members of 40 countries sit around and talk with each other on the screen, that they have the volition to do anything like that.
Well, all they can do is just talks. You
It's
know,
talk.
this is what happened. You know, what has been happening ever since the starting point of the Ukraine war, and that's like three. What? Well, that's 4 years ago, right?
Yeah,
That's
probably
already
probably five now.
4 years, more than 4 years. February 24th of 2022, right? So, so then they're just talking, and then you look at Germany. In the first 2 years of the war, they're still buying the oil from Russia.
Russia.
Yeah, so how can you count on these countries? And you just cannot count on them. All these countries, they'll sit down in the Davos, they just talking about something politically correct. But when it comes to the time to add, they're not doing anything. I mean, they're not even doing things for themselves. You know,
Do
uh,
you think they're not doing anything for themselves because they don't know what to do?
Well, I think they're still in the age of a globalized economy, right?
Well,
So,
what do you mean by that, though? I mean, we hear the term globalization all the time, and we know that Europe has kind of dissolved its borders to become one entity, or they tried to do that in some respects with limited success, like UK and Brexit and whatnot. But it appears to me that they're sitting there talking because they don't have any strategy to survive this.
well, their strategy is, United States is taking the lead, right? All they need to do is just follow the lead. They
But
have
they're not
the
following the lead. They're
well,
letting,
that's the issue. Why, if you don't follow, why do you want the United States to take a lead in NATO? You don't. That's why Trump is talking about to stop our membership of NATO. We don't want to be that part anymore. I mean, you first help yourself before, and you can't just do everything, relying on the United States, right? Because the United States it's facing a much bigger threat. China now, China's economy, it's 9 times of Russia. That's the bottom line. And then we have a hell of a work facing us, the threat facing us from the front of a Western Pacific. So why, if talking about help is mutual, then they need to help us instead of we help them, because the NATO countries, the NATO European countries, they are roughly the same total population of United States, roughly the total same GDP with the United States. Now, what they are those 30 countries plus Ukraine, all 31 countries together, dealing with Russia, it's it's just the one ninth, almost like it's like about 10% of China. And we have to deal with China, which is 9 times of Russia, and with the six, seven, five airlines, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, um, and Australia, New Zealand. Sorry, 6 countries. Uh, and See, this is the problem, right? This is the problem that the NATO facing. They don't want to do they supposed to do.
And they're not. And they're not. But
See, that's the
they're
problem.
talking about it. They're talking about how to open up the Straits of Hormuz, and they're talking about using diplomacy to do it. I don't think they have any leverage over Iran at all. I don't think they have. What does Iran need from Europe except cash?
Yeah.
And it's
So
getting
that's
most of.
why they say uh, they're setting up the toll booths in the Strait of Hormuz and collecting the money, right? European countries, if they don't want to buy American oil, just pay the tolls and get their oil from Iranian regime, and then the Iranian regime will use those money to recover its economy, to rebuild its nuclear weapon system, its long-range missile system, and to continuously to develop its ICBM, and one day they're going to attack the Europe. So and the
Well,
European
or if not attack it, bully it into submission with the threat of a nuclear attack, because Iran has gone underground. Iran is impervious to nuclear attacks. You can't bomb it into. I really doubt that we've killed those tunnels that they built. I
no,
know we've.
they probably still have some. So the latest research said they still have 1/3 of the missiles survived, right? So I think that's what they're counting on. Um, So I think that the next few weeks, if NATO doesn't, all the European countries, or European NATO countries, if that 30 nations they don't want to step in, then I think it's just a bombing. After bombing, we're going to just leave. Let them choose what they want to do. I
And
think
they will.
that I think we're just patiently waiting at this point, see what they're going to react, right?
Yeah. And thus, Trump's speech last night, which did not reveal anything new, because there's nothing new to reveal, other than the fact that we're looking at the Straits of Hormuz as a uniquely European problem, or the rest of the world's problem too. We don't need the oil, you need the oil. Go get your own oil.
Yeah,
And
well, we are there to help. We're just waiting for them to join, right? That's the key point. All they need to do is just to make the decision and join the United States military. We're already there. So why don't they just join us? If they don't want to join, hey, we're leaving.
well, that's why I brought up the question, which is China, or which is Europe most frightened of? The United States or the axis of Russia, China, and Iran? I think that they are most afraid of Russia, China, and Iran, and that they're bullied into submit, and that fear has bullied them into submission. They are not willing to do anything. They're not willing to take up arms and fight for themselves.
Well, I think this thing is going to last for a little longer. Uh, I think that I don't think that the European countries if they don't uh I don't think they are ready to make the decision yet. So they probably take a little more pain for them, seeing all the energy prices keep up there, for a little while, for a little while.
And the other question is, how long can Trump hold out too? Because he's got an election coming up in the fall that is predicted to turn his government into the opposition's government.
I don't think the Republicans are going to keep the House anyway. It doesn't matter at this point. So what Trump is facing, it's if he's going to lose both the election and the war, or he's going to just at least win one of them.
Gonna
So
go for one of them. Okay.
yeah,
Well, and that bears a lot on the Straits of Hormuz. You know, if Trump believes that he can still win the election by withdrawing from the Iran war and handing it over.
it's not going to happen. You think about that. If he withdraw, basically number one, the inflation and the oil price are not going to come down because Iranian regime they're already they already start collecting the fees, right? So the oil price is going to keep up there, and all these Muslim countries, they're our friend. They feel unsecured, and then the European countries don't getting their oil. So basically, the energy crisis are going to be there if you don't solve the problem. Now, and while at the same time, we cannot take the burden just by ourselves. So I think this is like right now it's just
So we're right on the inflection point here.
yeah. So
It's
we
if
just need to give a little more patience, waiting for the European countries to join. Basically, they have to join. If they don't join, then I don't think we need to take the Carg Island because if we take Carg Island,
then we're there.
then we have to keep the Strait Hormuz open, right? Because otherwise,
So that's what Europe is betting on as they sit
yeah.
in their Zoom conference. We'll just sit here and we'll force Trump to eat it.
Well, Trump say, "Hey, we're not going to do it. We're just bombing it. We're just
So,
bombing it. We will destroy their electrical system. We'll keep bombing." And I think that there would be a point for Trump to make the decision if he's going to leave or not. I think the decision will be the U.S. military will take a very dangerous job to seize those enriched uraniums, uh, and then they all at least send the ground troops to occupy those some of those places. But it's going to be an in and out operation. It's not going to, we're not going to keep our troops there. And I think that's why there's Trump is sending the F-82 airborne units over there. They probably already figure out where those enriched uraniums are. And then now keep in mind, if it's an airborne operation, then they also need to take over at least one airport.
a
it's very
big task ahead of us in either direction. We're going to take
yeah.
a top of the hour break. And when we come back, let's turn our attention to China and its ability to fight for Taiwan, because the situation has changed quite dramatically for China over the past period of time with respect to its ability to fight, as demonstrated in Iran. So this is China Now, non-Sue Michael Olson, and you right back.